So I was just about to finish my presentation and go through and record it, but for probably the last 45 minutes, I played around with the idea, what if I turn this presentation into a TED Talk about TED Talks? So I'm here, I'm gonna do a TED Talk, or TED Talk kind of style about this. I hope it goes well. But I'm just gonna start, honestly. So when I first watched the TED Talks in our frame, um, I felt inspired because they tell us that purpose comes from being able to follow your passions and being able to embrace who you truly are, and being able to trust that self-reflection is going to be able to guide you. It's a hopeful message, but it's the kind of that TED Talks love to do. But the more that I thought about it, the more something kind of fell off to me. Because while those TED Talks make purpose sound universal, my life was completely different. When you're working 40 hours a week, like I do, with another 15 to 20 hours on top of that, it's hard to just be able to slow down and ask yourself, what is my purpose? I actually ended up in therapy because of it. And I felt like I was failing at something that everybody else seemed to have figured out. So I started asking myself a different question. Is purpose really something everyone can find? Or is it shaped by the opportunities that we have? Simply put, I decided to dig into some research. Sociologists Alexander Intel-Weiss and Olson showed that kids from low-income families grew up with lesser chances to explore their passions or their interests and to be able to take risks. Their energy went towards basic needs, and those kinds of disadvantages early on stack up over time. It's that alone challenges the idea that purpose is just a matter of passion. I decided to look into another study in the applied research of quality of life, and found that higher social class gives people more control over resources. But who would have thought, right? Which means that freedom makes long-term purpose-driven decisions better. With people with fewer resources often have to focus on food and work and everything else. They don't have time to ask themselves abstract questions. Harvard's Men Watch kind of put it simply to me. Adults lack the time or freedom to think about purpose because their time is spent focused on surviving. And once I saw that kind of pattern with these kinds of TED Talks, I started to look at it differently. Especially Amy Purdy's story. It's powerful, but it depends on resources that people don't have. And Emily Wapnick's research has something very similar. Her TED Talk talks about exploring multiple interests as if everybody has the time and energy to put forth that, and the ability to do that. But when I put this all together, something became clear. Purpose isn't just a mindset, it's a privilege. But I don't want to say that these TED Talk speakers are wrong. Their stories are powerful, but they leave out kind of an invisible support system that not everybody sees. The time, the stability, the money, the care, the safety nets, like your grandma and grandpa being able to send you off to college, it becomes a lot harder. And that just helps me kind of understand something about myself. Like, my struggle wasn't a personal flaw. It was being able to reflect the conditions I lived in. So maybe purpose isn't something you discover. Maybe it is, but being able to finally look inwards, I think it's something you build slowly over time. But I think something else is that we're all just building with different materials. Sometimes people find their passions like that. 5 years old, hey, I want to become a doctor. And in 20 years' time, they are a doctor. Or, someone like me, I asked myself that question over and over again. What do I want to be when I grow up? It's a question that I've never been able to ask until, just recently. It's something I was able to find while I was growing up with myself. Being able to grow in a nice household with a supportive family. But the piece of paper I have here is something I want to finish on. It's a note that I wrote in 6th grade, and it was going to be sent to me on my graduation day, so about almost 4 years ago. And I want to read this last paragraph as, an ending, to hopefully have you guys think about, just in case you haven't found your purpose, it doesn't mean you should stop trying or belittle yourself because of it. If I were you, because I am you, I would want you to go to college and be a photographer, because I do want to become someone someday. If you do graduate, that will probably be the biggest achievement of my life. Looking at the future, I'm kind of scared, but I'm pretty sure you're doing just fine. Thank you.